COVID multiple times. And what's worse, months later, many of his symptoms did not go away.
To see him just struggle to stay awake or, crying and saying he just doesn't feel good. It's heartbreaking. It's demoralizing.
Long COVID can look different in different children, that not everybody has the same symptoms.
Researchers warn long COVID can also raise the chances of a child developing type 1 diabetes and can even be deadly, leading to multiple system inflammatory systems in children. Well, more than 100 years ago, Chinook salmon from the McLeod River near the Shasta Dam ended up in the cold mountain waters of New Zealand, where today they continue to thrive. In today's Project Earth, Ann Makovic has an update on the quest to bring these ancestors to the California fish back home, all thanks to a new grant.
It is a 300-mile journey that traces the ancestral path of the winter-run Chinook salmon from the McLeod River to the Pacific Ocean. The annual pilgrimage is led by the Winnemem-Wintu tribe and its chief, Colleen Sisk. The tribe has never wavered from a core belief.
Whatever happens to the salmon happens to the people.
Salmon populations are a fraction of what they once were, and climate change plays a role.
In the last decade, they've been hit by the 1-2 punch of climate change. Disruptive heat waves, dryness through extreme drought.
Chuck Bonham heads up the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. He says the summer of 2021 was a grim one for the salmon.
We were in the midst of the peak of our most recent severe drought. And these fish are now trapped down on the valley floors. And the valley floors are much hotter. Water that's too hot is lethal for salmon.
California's Fish and Wildlife just awarded $50 million in grants for 15 projects. One involves the Winnemem-Wintu and the tribe's attempts to restore wild salmon to the McLeod River.
This is the right thing to do, and it'll help us figure out how to save salmon in California.
And so they're in a dire position now and may go extinct if this project that we're involved with isn't successful.
Sisk recounts how the problem first began with the Shasta Dam. While the dam provides flood control, hydroelectric power, and water supplies,
it is a weapon of mass destruction to me.
Built during World War II, Shasta Dam flooded the Winnemem tribe off their ancestral land. It also blocked the Chinook from returning to the icy cold McLeod River to spawn. In 1994, these fish were federally listed as endangered. The tribe held protests. Then Chief Sisk got an email.
Do you want your salmon back? We have them.
That email was from the head of the Maori people of New Zealand. It turns out, in the 19th century, millions of salmon eggs from the McLeod River were exported to 30 states and 14 different countries to create new salmon runs. The only one that thrived is the one in New Zealand. Sisk and other tribal members traveled to see the fish and became determined to bring some back home to the McLeod.
You know, we want to welcome them home.
What better way to try to heal past injuries and show the world it's possible to do things together and make it better?
In an historic agreement, the tribe is now working with Fish and Wildlife and NOAA Fisheries to support a joint effort to return the salmon to the McLeod. Sisk believes the wild salmon eggs will fare better than those hatched near the dam.
If the salmon survive, people will survive. If we can get a volitional passage from the Sacramento River past the dam so that fish can swim in and out on their own, then we have wild fish again.
The hope? To get them home safely as soon as possible.
And the tribe will also use the grant money to further their quest in establishing a new passage for the salmon to return to the McLeod, bypassing Shasta Dam. For more information on all of our Project Earth stories, just head to our website at kpix.com. Up next, he had a front row seat to all the action for decades. Meet the man keeping score, the Golden State Warriors.
a first alert weather day for us here in the Bay Area, but the winds are starting to die down into the afternoon hours today, so it's actually shaping up to be not that bad later this afternoon, where daytime highs are actually sitting in the 70s. It's this morning that we're still concerned about, though, so we're keeping a close eye on those wind gusts because we could see wind speeds anywhere up to around 40 to 50 miles per hour up in the North Bay at times. Luckily, that is going to die down, though, as we head into our weekend forecast, which is perfect timing because plenty of things are happening for us in the Bay Area heading into this weekend. Wings Over Solano is happening. We also have the St. Patrick's Day Festival happening in San Francisco, and we're expecting sunshine and 70s and 60s in the forecast all weekend long. Here's our inland forecast into early next week. We'll see partly cloudy skies return into the Bay Area and then a chance of showers by next Thursday.
Well, the Warriors are in L.A. to play the Lakers tomorrow. They're getting Steph Curry back in the lineup. He missed the past few games with an ankle injury. The team says he took part in a scrimmage this week with their G League affiliate, and everything went well. Head coach Steve Kerr says Curry will practice with the big league squad today. And one person has seen almost every home game from the best seat in the house. Vern Glenn has a story of Jim Mayer, a clock operator who has been with the team for more than 6 decades.
Jim Mayer has one of the best seats in the house at Chase Center. Well, most of the time. Mayer has been with the Warriors since the team moved to San Francisco in 1962.
Bad timing, it was the same time the Giants were in the World Series with the Yankees, so they didn't get a lot of attention. But it was exciting for me because I got to be a ball boy. It was like a dream come true for a 13-year-old kid.
A few years later, Jim moved from the baseline to the scorer's table.
That was actually a paid position. The ball boys didn't get paid. We got tips from the trainers and the referees, which turned out to be probably more than what they were paying us for the job on the table.
Back then, he did it all. Shot clock, scoreboard, even foul paddles.
Everybody doing well?
Doing good, doing good. All right, G, have a good one.
In 1990, Jim took over as the full-time clock operator, all while juggling his job at the U.S. Postal Service and raising a family with his longtime wife, Jolene.
We had 4 kids and the full-time job, and I somehow kept this job. It was tough at times.
And there hasn't been a lot of load management over his 61 years with the team.
I missed about half a season when I was in the Navy. That was in 1969. I missed a couple when the kids were born. My oldest son was born. I remember we were playing New Orleans Jazz. Pistol Pete was playing for them, and that was my wife's favorite player. So we missed that one. And I would say in the last 25 years, I've missed 10 games, maybe. Hey, Doc, how you doing? All right.
Jim has 4 championship rings from the recent run.
We would just look at each other on the table sometime and say, this is something special we're seeing. We're not going to see nothing like this again.
He received a money clip for the 1975 title and plenty of other priceless memories along the way.
I've got to go travel with them for preseason games to Mexico City, Beijing and Shanghai, China, and Tokyo, Japan. So that's something I never would have been able to do otherwise without this job.
And he's not ready for the clock to run out anytime soon.
It's hard to give it up. You know, one of these, I'll probably do it until they kick me out.
Well, coming up, a special Bay Area exhibit is celebrating what makes this artist unique, what he's hoping to show with his new mural.
It is a gusty day for us here in the Bay Area with daytime highs in the 70s and blue skies all around us. Pretty much sounds great minus the winds, right? Well, here's what we're looking at as we head into this afternoon. Daytime highs topping off in the mid 70s near San Jose, low 70s in Los Gatos. We'll see upper 60s along the coastline, but with all that sunshine we're seeing, oh gosh, it's going to be a beautiful day to head out to the beach just after that 3-4 o'clock hour. And I'll show you the reason why in just a second. It's still gusty out there near Stinson Beach, stretching up into the Marin Headlands and all the way up into Sonoma, where earlier this morning we saw wind speeds anywhere up to around 50 miles per hour. It's going to take a while, even after that wind advisory expires at 11 a.m. for those winds to really calm down in the North Bay. Here's what it's looking like just by noon, all the way into our 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hour. Breezy up in the North Bay, starting to die down off into the East Bay. And for our friends down into the Santa Clara Valley, we were never under a wind advisory, actually. Yeah, we saw some gusty conditions at times, but still, it'll calm down a lot more as we head into the afternoon hours today. And then we're left with a beautiful weekend ahead of us, but that wind is still whipping up that pollen, so we are left in that medium to high category heading into our weekend forecast. Keep that in mind if you're sensitive to allergies.
Well, March is Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, and an Oakland nonprofit is doing important work to champion talented Bay Area artists with disabilities. The public will soon have an opportunity to enjoy their art as part of a new exhibit at SF MoMA. Lorraine Ayub spoke with one of those artists who will have his work featured in that new exhibit and heard the message he wants to bring.
A new exhibition is coming to the SF MoMA. In partnership with nonprofit Creative Growth, artists with developmental disabilities will have a chance to have their art featured here until October. Now, I spoke with one particular artist who hopes his mural will have a message of peace that will spread to both the city and beyond.
Art is his gift, but love is his fuel. Artist William Scott is making his final touches on his upcoming mural exhibition at the SF MoMA. William is autistic, and yet he hasn't let any learning differences stop him from his creative abilities. Partnering up with Creative Growth, an Oakland-based nonprofit that supports artists with disabilities, William has been able to reach more art lovers. He has one main goal for fans of his art.
To feel good, to feel happy, to feel good, to feel happy.
Using advanced digital architecture programs to help create his blueprints, William's art has a deeply empathic lens focused on themes of faith and family. He reimagines San Francisco through his imagery with a city entitled Praise Frisco, where honest leaders will bring positive change to the city.
Because we need replacing the wrong people, bad people, and homeless people and killings, replace all of those. So we need the gospel people, we need gospel superstars, we need some God people. We need some God people to come in San Francisco, come in and Praise Frisco.
William's work, alongside other Creative Growth artists, will be featured at the SF MoMA starting April 6th. It's a part of an overall partnership that celebrates the nonprofit's 50-year anniversary. It's the oldest organization in the country that's been pioneering the support and inclusion of artists with disabilities. William's instructor says working with him has been inspiring.
Our relationship is I teach him something, he teaches me something too. So I think we're both learning from each other in this experience. I'm really happy for William. He really deserves this. He is the hardest worker that I know. He comes in, he works he has his breaks, but he works all throughout the day. But after he leaves, he goes home and he continues working on his architectural drawings. And then on the weekends, he continues working. And the only rest day that he tells me he gets is when he goes to church. But he's always working, and you can see that in his paints, and you can see it in all the work that he does.
So make it quiet.
William hopes his art will bring about transformation, not just for San Francisco, but globally.
To rebuilding the world better as peaceful. I am a peacemaker.
The art gives him peace, and he hopes the peace will show through in his art.
Well, an inspirational evening right here at our station last night as we honored all of our 2023 Bay Area Jefferson Award winners. We have shared the stories of our 45 regional winners throughout the year, and 40 of them received bronze medals, and the top 5 winners got silver medals and will be considered for a National Jefferson Award later this year. You can find out more about the winners or nominate your local hero at kpix.com/hero. Well, thanks for streaming CBS News Bay Area. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. We'll be right back with your first alert weather forecast and a look at your top stories. I'm Ryan Yamamoto. This is the Minute. Strong winds are still sweeping through the Bay Area this morning. Take a look at this. Those winds caused a tree to land across power lines on Highway 35 in San Mateo County, shutting down the road yesterday. The winds are expected to lighten up this afternoon. Caltrans is closing a southbound stretch of 680 through the weekend so that crews can replace pavement that's falling apart. That starts at 9 tonight. It will close from the 580 connector to Koopman Road. It's expected to reopen at 4 in the morning on Monday. And the man accused of killing tech executive Bob Lee is back in court today. Nima Momeni is facing a judge who will decide whether to keep his trial in San Francisco. Momeni's defense argues that holding the trial in the city would be unfair because Lee was well known here. The Bay Area's only primetime newscast, 8 9 p.m. on the all-new Pix Plus 44 Cable 12.
This morning, we're still under that first alert advisory as many of us are dealing with gusty conditions throughout the Bay. Now, the National Weather Service has that wind advisory until 11 a.m., but I will say this. Taking a look at our models, we're still dealing with some breezy conditions past 11 a.m., so let's dive into that. This morning, we saw wind speeds anywhere up to around 50 miles per hour near Sonoma. It stays strong as we head into our lunchtime hours past that advisory, and it's a similar trend off into the East Bay, too. It's not really until 4 or 5 o'clock where the East Bay starts to see calmer wind gusts. Up into the North Bay, it takes just a little bit longer, but here's the good news. Today, once these winds start to calm down, it's going to be beautiful. I mean, we're talking about daytime highs in the 70s, sunshine all throughout the Bay Area. It's just gusty, and that's definitely not helping when it comes to our pollen count. We're still in that medium to high category, just like yesterday for us today. And we'll see a similar trend as we head into our weekend forecast, too. But speaking of the weekend, gosh, this is the pot of gold right next to that rainbow. As we head into our St. Patrick's Day parade, we're expecting sunshine all throughout the afternoon hours and upper 60s in the forecast too. So actually a little bit cooler than today, but we're going to hold on tight to the 70s up in the North Bay if you are planning on heading to Travis Air Force Base to watch the Blue Angels fly. Here's what it's looking like for us today. It is Friday. It is breezy, I'm not going to lie, but once we head into the afternoon hours, it's going to look a lot better compared to yesterday and today. Once we head all the way off into the East Bay, we're talking about 70s in the forecast. A similar trend along the peninsula and all the way down into the Santa Clara Valley we go. We're seeing blue skies, and we're going to hold on tight to those blue skies near San Jose all throughout the afternoon hours today, with lighter winds already happening for our friends near the Santa Clara Valley. Watch what happens in the next 7 days. We have a lot of changes right around the corner for us. Blue skies today and tomorrow. We're seeing 70s into early next week, despite the fact that some clouds start rolling in from offshore. It's not until Wednesday and Thursday where a chance of showers returns into the Bay Area as a little tiny cold front gets us right back down into the 60s throughout the Bay.
Well, the 78 protesters who spent hours blocking traffic on the Bay Bridge won't spend any time in jail. They blocked anyone from getting up on the upper deck in November. This happened during the APEC summit that included life-saving operations and organs for transplant that were all caught in that gridlock. Well, the DA announced charges in December, but as Wilson Walker reports, instead of facing trial, the protesters are celebrating a legal victory.
The Bay Bridge 78 walked out of the courtroom to the cheering crowd that had packed the hallway to support them. The outcome, in the words of one organizer, a complete vindication and victory.
Essentially, the judge dismissed our case as of May 15th with a diversion offer of 5 hours community service and a little under $4,500 in restitution. I think that the DA's retaliatory charges were an attempt to put a chill on mobilizations.
As for some kind of precedent here, we have seen incidents like this before. In 2016, protesters with Black Lives Matter took over the bridge, and the Highway Patrol arrested 25 people. District Attorney George Gascon reduced the charges to simple traffic citations, saying it was in the interest of free speech. Then a judge just threw those charges out wholesale. So while blocking the bridge is illegal, there is plenty of room for discretion.
Yes, the government does have a certain amount of prosecutorial discretion in terms of whether it's going to arrest people, whether it's just going to say go home and allow people to leave. There's all sorts of latitude and discretion that creeps in at various parts of the process. But certainly in terms of the First Amendment question, they are permitted to say either move to the sidewalk or you have to stop your protest.
The protesters initially asked for the charges to be dropped completely, and there was a great deal of anger directed towards District Attorney Brooke Jenkins for her pursual of charges at all. One of the 78 defended the protest, saying the movement is being persecuted and misrepresented.
I still stand behind what we have done, and that we needed to make the statements that we needed to do in order to make our voices loud and clear. This movement is much larger than what is being perceived on the media, and I hope that you as a reporter can reflect that in your own reporting.
Well, the DA's office says if the protesters are arrested again in the next 2 months, the deal could be off the table and criminal proceedings could be on the way. Well, the effort to recall Alameda County District Attorney Pamela Price is heading to a manual recount. The county registrar of voters says an initial random sampling count was unable to determine if there were enough signatures to trigger a recall election. Supporters of the recall handed in 123,000 signatures last week. That's about 73,000 signatures are required to set a recall in motion. And more than a week after Election Day, two candidates vying for Congresswoman Anna Eshoo's seat. They remain in a locked-tight race. That district spans San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. Former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo already clinched the top spot. But second place is good enough to get on the November ballot. Now Assemblymember Evan Lowe has edged ahead of Santa Clara Supervisor Joe Simidian, but only by a fewer than 100 votes. Kelsey Thorne is keeping an eye on the race.
Focused on November and make sure the runoff campaign is looking good.
On election night, Santa Clara County Supervisor Joe Simidian seemed confident he would win enough votes in California's District 16 congressional race to get on the November ballot. But since that night, the race for second just keeps getting tighter. Now, over a week later, with still no firm answer on who will join former San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo in the general election, Simidian told me he remains confident in his campaign.
We know that there are votes to be counted in both counties, San Mateo and Santa Clara County.
Simidian held second place in the vote totals for over a week after primary night. But on Wednesday, State Representative Evan Lowe overtook him for the first time.
Now it's neck and neck, a virtual tie, and we'll know a whole lot more in the next few days.
We reached out to Evan Lowe's campaign for an interview. They told us they couldn't fit one in with his schedule, but sent us this statement saying in part, quote, "While there are still votes left to be counted, I am encouraged by the latest results that have put our campaign in the lead. I am grateful to all of my supporters and look forward to all votes being counted in this race." Melinda Jackson is a professor of political science at San Jose State University. She says the way this race has played out may be an indication of the type of supporters each candidate has.
You know, we can speculate that the people who are really on top of this and paying a lot of attention and voting early, getting their ballots in ahead of time, you know, might be older voters with a little more time on their hands, or maybe people who are more familiar with someone like Joe Simidian, who's been in politics for a number of decades. Whereas those last-minute voters might tend to be younger, maybe looking for a younger candidate like Evan Lowe, who does represent, you know, a new generation.
No matter the end result, both Lowe and Simidian have emphasized this race is a perfect example of why voting matters so much.
The fact that this race could come down to a relative handful of votes is a reminder that every vote counts and every vote has to be counted.
And depending on how close the race ends up being, one of the candidates could request a recount, but they would also have to pay for it. County election officials have until April 4th to tally the final results. And still ahead on CBS News Bay Area, Oakland's Restaurant Week isn't just a chance for foodies to unwind.
For me, like even creating a menu now is really how can I dig deep and tell a story with that menu.
The opportunity for restaurant owners to get people to show up after a tough year for the town. While San Francisco animal shelters pushed to the brink with many reaching capacity for the number of animals they can take. What's causing it and how you can help. And the bill that could lead a popular social media app to be banned is still in the hands of the Senate. A UC Berkeley professor tells us what's at stake for TikTok.
I pick my brackets strategically based on statistics.
And then I divide everything by the multiple of 68.
Picking a winner is so random.
You need a little luck.
Okay, there has to be some random element.
It's like blindly throwing darts.
UConn.
I just love how unpredictable it is every year.
Yes. Oh no, not burn.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh.
The tournament is coming. Play along with our team.
Everyone okay?
At kpix.com.
It is a first alert weather day for us here in the Bay Area, but the winds are starting to die down into the afternoon hours today, so it's actually shaping up to be not that bad later this afternoon, where daytime highs are actually sitting in the 70s. It's this morning that we're still concerned about, though, so we're keeping a close eye on those wind gusts because we could see wind speeds anywhere up to around 40 to 50 miles per hour up in the North Bay at times. Luckily, that is going to die down, though, as we head into our weekend forecast, which is perfect timing because plenty of things are happening for us in the Bay Area heading into this weekend. Wings Over Solano is happening. We also have the St. Patrick's Day Festival happening in San Francisco, and we're expecting sunshine and 70s and 60s in the forecast all weekend long. Here's our inland forecast into early next week. We'll see partly cloudy skies return into the Bay Area and then a chance of showers by next Thursday.
Well, a popular barbecue restaurant in West Oakland is closing down permanently. The owner of Horn Barbecue announced on social media that he will not reopen his Mandela Parkway location. This comes after a fire gutted the building last year. The restaurant was red tagged and has been closed ever since. Owner Matt Horn says since then, they have also dealt with squatters and vandals. But this might not be the end. The owner has hinted to reopening a different location. Horn says that he's working with employees to find them positions at his two other restaurants in Oakland, Cowbird and Maddie's Old Fashioned. And we have heard from restaurants all across the Bay Area that car break-ins and crime have been keeping customers away and hurting their bottom line. But now they are hoping for a bounce back as Restaurant Week takes over Oakland. Andrea Nakano talked to one chef about how he's stepping up his game to get people to come out.
Beautiful herb, kind of like cilantro, white leaf. We got the smoked plantain in the bottom.
Some may recognize Chef Nelson Herman from Bravo TV's Top Chef. A Dominican-American from New York, he married an Oaklander and has called this city home since 2010. He owns Alamar and Sobre Mesa. For Chef Nelson, Restaurant Week has turned into an event he looks forward to every year.
And honestly, as a chef, we used to hate Restaurant Week back in the days. It was a time where it's like everyone was looking for something too cheap and this and that, like people were just too needy. But no, it's not like that anymore. It's really a sense of like us getting a chance to shine even more.
Chef Nelson infuses his Dominican roots and lessons he learned from cooking with his grandma and mother in every dish.
I'm actually doing that same dish I had when I was on episode 4 on Top Chef, rescue chicken with sweet plantains that's smoked in mesquite with a jollof rice powder and a beautiful cilantro ranch. I'm super excited about that one, really, really excited. It just tastes amazing, but it really tells a story of where I come from and a lot of us come from.
Dishes like these are part of the 3-course prefix menu offered at both his restaurants for the next 10 days.
For me, like even creating a menu now is really how can I dig deep and tell a story with that menu. It's not about what's the most cheapest item I have and creating a menu with that. It's something I really want to showcase, something new on the menu, something I've been wanting to test out.
There is nothing ordinary about the dishes or the cocktails served at Chef Nelson's restaurant. He knows this week is key in luring customers that may be hesitant to dine out because of crime in Oakland.
There's definitely an impact by that. Just the thought that, nothing's secure, right? Honestly, it's about, for us, a challenge of creating something so unique that you have to come out.
Alamar definitely left an impression on these folks. They returned for a second year in a row to celebrate a birthday.
Oxtails. Oxtails. They have some good French fries or something like that. Yeah, I don't know why. The French fries are good.
Gary and Sonia say for them, it's worth it to come out and enjoy good food with good friends.
We got a beautiful place here. We got other activity going on, we know that, but there's a lot of great things happening here, and we just want to keep supporting it, right?
And restaurants in Oakland could use all the support they can get to keep the local food scene vibrant and dynamic.
There's still a lot of beauty, still a lot of positivity here. Even with everything that's happening, change is happening.
Well, it's a critical time for San Francisco Animal Care and Control, as well as other shelters all around the Bay Area, as they do their best to take on a national problem, that is overcrowding. They have reached capacity for the number of dogs that they can take in. A major reason why they're dealing with this challenge, millions of dogs and cats across the country have not had spay and neuter surgeries. That delay built up during the pandemic. Our Sean Chitness explains how you can help shelters right now.
It's easy for these faces inside San Francisco Animal Care and Control to steal your heart. but right now they need some extra love.
For overcapacity. So we have animals that are available for adoption. We'd love for people to come and adopt them. But we're also packed full of stray animals and a group we call custody animals.
Virginia Donahue is the executive director of SF Animal Care and Control. She explains that custody animals are those at the shelter because of a family emergency.
Normally we handle about 500 of those cases a year. Last year we handled over 800, and this year we're on track to repeat that number. So that's way, way more animals than we're used to.
That only adds to the increase they're seeing from a drop in spayed and neutered animals. During the pandemic, veterinary care went down and surgeries were delayed. It's not just affecting dogs. They're taking in twice the number of bunnies they would see over 6 months, even more guinea pigs as well. So they're asking anyone thinking of surrendering an animal to check for additional help first.
We're jam full. We have no room. But if you are having difficulty, like maybe there's some way we can help you and your pet stay together.
And it's worth remembering the animals are here because there was an issue with the people who were taking care of them. Virginia says there's nothing wrong with the animals, and you can take the word of any of her employees who brought at least one of them home.
I don't think you can find anybody in this building who hasn't adopted from her.
That's what makes the job so rewarding and keeps her going even in tough times. Purpose-driven work that can truly have a positive impact on everyone.
You get to help a lot of San Francisco animals. And in conjunction with that, you also end up helping a lot of people.
Sean also says that shelters can help pet owners by providing low-cost clinics and pet food banks. You can also help by adopting a pet yourself. Well, San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is in the running for USA's Today's Best City Park. Right now, it's in the lead ahead of St. Louis, Missouri's Forest Park and Toledo, Ohio's Wildwood Preserve Metro Park. USA Today says the best city park is a space to connect with nature and the community. Golden Gate Park spans more than 1,000 acres. Still ahead, all eyes are on Boeing after many high-profile incidents with their aircraft. A professor from UC Berkeley will join us with how and if they can regain the public's trust. And a reminder, you can stream CBS News Bay Area wherever, whenever. Catch all of our live newscasts, plus news and weather updates throughout the day. You can find us on the free CBS News app or on Pluto TV.
It is a gusty day for us here in the Bay Area with daytime highs in the 70s and blue skies all around us. Pretty much sounds great minus the winds, right? Well, here's what we're looking at as we head into this afternoon. Daytime highs topping off in the mid 70s near San Jose, low 70s in Los Gatos. We'll see upper 60s along the coastline, but with all that sunshine we're seeing, oh gosh, it's going to be a beautiful day to head out to the beach just after that 3-4 o'clock hour, and I'll show you the reason why in just a second. It's still gusty out there near Stinson Beach, stretching up into the Marin Headlands and all the way up into Sonoma, where earlier this morning we saw wind speeds anywhere up to around 50 miles per hour. It's going to take a while, even after that wind advisory expires at 11 a.m., for those winds to really calm down in the North Bay. Here's what it's looking like just by noon, all the way into our 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock hour. Breezy up in the North Bay, starting to die down off into the East Bay. And for our friends down into the Santa Clara Valley, we were never under a wind advisory, actually. Yeah, we saw some gusty conditions at times, but still, it'll calm down a lot more as we head into the afternoon hours today, and then we're left with a beautiful weekend ahead of us, but that wind is still whipping up that pollen, so we are left in that medium to high category heading into our weekend forecast. Keep that in mind if you're sensitive to allergies.
TikTok is fighting back as Congress reviews legislation that could ban the app right here in the United States. The fight over the future of TikTok brought its CEO to Capitol Hill yesterday. He held private meetings and made a public plea.
But I haven't heard exactly what we've done this wrong. This is a ban on our app in this country. It's going to impact 170 million Americans who use our app.
Lawmakers are concerned the Chinese government could use TikTok to spy on Americans or spread misinformation. The House passed a bill Wednesday that will force TikTok to separate from its Chinese parent company, ByteDance. The Senate now reviewing that legislation. And joining me now is global strategist Dr. Olaf Groth with UC Berkeley's Haas School of Business. And what's at stake here? Could this be considered a violation of free speech for a lot of TikTok users?
Oh, thank you very much, Ryan. Yes, I think the fact that this is becoming a political issue in the United States because both sides of the aisle want to appear tough on China, or on Beijing anyway, is obscuring our view to the fact that this may not be constitutional, right? And I think the Senate is realizing this, and a few senators have already said we have to tweak the bill in order to make it so. Let's not forget that there are some U.S. platforms as well that are being held to objectify customers, but of course, they're not necessarily funneling information to our system competitor, right? Which is Beijing, and so politically it's a different kettle of fish, but legally it's an uphill battle.
So what do you think actually happens? Do they actually sell?
Well, selling the company is going to be really tough, right? Mm-hmm. Because for one, Beijing has said we're not going to make the algorithms available to, a Western buyer, and that will make the purchase, much less attractive. Even if that weren't the case, then you have the other problem, which is that the company is, frankly, hugely expensive, which will limit the buyer set. And in the middle of all of this, you're then going to have to deal with the politics between Beijing and Washington, and that is not necessarily attractive for a buyer either. And you get operational problems because when the buyer of the U.S. entity then needs to hark back to R&D or engineers at headquarters for some reason, that's going to be much more difficult as well. So the buyer better bring their own back-end systems. And so that too is going to be an uphill battle. So this is a very wickedly complex issue.
Yeah, very dicey situation there. Okay, let's move to Boeing now. There's been a recent wave of safety issues tied to its aircraft, including that door plug blowout in January. Then that wheel fell off at SFO. How is Boeing going to recover from this? How can it regain trust with passengers?
Yeah, right now it's not on a path to doing that, right? So Boeing failed 33 out of 89 audits on a recent examination by the FAA. Only 58% of its workers have a thorough understanding of quality assurance and control processes, it turns out, in some tests. And of course, those numbers are not good for trust. So what's happening? Assuming that we give a little bit of credit to management, that it knows that this is absolutely urgent in the interest of passengers, airlines, as well as itself, there must be a breakage somewhere between management and the quality assurance processes. And that oftentimes is a human problem, right? So somebody is not managing to change the processes of training